Say my name, no one is around you, say baby. Okay, so probably none of y'all know about Destiny's Child, but look at Beyonce up here in the front. So today we're going to be learning how to name angles, hence Say My Name from Destiny's Child. Y'all should look it up. So our learning target, again, is to identify and name angles. So I have this lovely angle. We're not going to call it Bob. We're going to use some math terms. So let's get started. So there are 3 ways to name an angle. So let's talk about the 3 ways. The first way is to use an angle symbol and then a number. An angle symbol looks like a less than sign, but the bottom is flat. So that's what it looks like to y'all. Okay, so number 1 is a number. That's probably the quickest way ever. The second one is to use an angle symbol with the vertex of the angle. So again, the vertex, let's look at this math tip. It's the point where the sides of the angle meet. So it's the middle of the angle. Okay, so in this example down here, our vertex would be B, and so I could call it angle B. Okay, these are the 2 fastest ways to name an angle, but they're not going to always be this easy every time. The last way to name an angle is to use the angle symbol and then 3 points of the angle. The first point is on one side of the angle, the second point is the vertex, and the third point is on the other side of the angle. So that is the most important thing right there. The second point has to be the vertex. I didn't mean to go through that like that. So point or vertex B has to be in your name every time. So let's look at some examples. There are 4 ways to name this lovely angle up here. I could say A, B, and C, and I can completely ignore D for my first naming of it. Now if I wanted to say A, B, skip over C, and do point D, that's also an appropriate way to name it. Okay, so you need one on one side of the angle, the other point on the other side of the angle, and then your vertex in the middle. You can also flip the order. So for example, I could do C, B, and then A, or I could do D, skip over C to come to B, and then A. So DABA, CBA, etc. Okay, so just to refresh again, there are 3 ways to name an angle. Angle symbol has to be in all of them. You can say angle 1, angle B, or you can name it using 3 letters. Just make sure you never call it A, B, C, D. We don't need 4. All right, so let's practice. I want you guys to try part A and part B. Give me all the possible names for each angle, and I gave you a hint. There are 4 ways to name this the angle A, part A, and then there's 5 ways to name angle B. Okay, so go ahead and press pause and see if you can give me all the possible names for the angle. Press pause. Take a look at these answers for part A. So I started off with the quickest, in my opinion, angle 3. Then I started off with the vertex, angle Y. And then I went ahead with naming with my 3 letters. You could have said X, Y, Z, and then flip it again for Z, Y, X. So that's a pretty straightforward angle. Those are the 4 ways to name it. Now, let's come over here to part B. This is where it gets tricky when you have options to pick from. So I started off with the vertex first, angle C, and then I went to my 3 letters because there weren't any numbers here. So I started over here and said S, C, and then N. And then I can also name it the same way, but skipping over the letter N and using point F. So S, C, and then F. So those are 3 ways to name that angle. And then I have to kind of go the other direction. So I'm going to start over here with point N and go N, C, and then S. And then lastly, to not use the point N and use the point F, you can say F, skip over that C, and then S. All right, so those are the 5 ways to name it. The only pretty much incorrect way to name it with 3 letters is you cannot say F, N, and C because they're all in the same line. That's kind of like, it's a line. You have to make sure to have 1 on the right side of the angle, 1 on the left side of the angle, and then that middle letter. So this one right here is not good. Don't use it. Okay? One thing I want us to notice real quick is that notice all the middle letters have the same letter. And that will always be true. Your vertex has got to be that middle letter. Okay? How cool. All right, moving on. I want you guys to try 13, 14, and 15, and that'll take us to the end of this lesson. So go ahead and press pause, and then we'll check over your answers. All right, so for 13, it just wanted you to draw a figure, an angle, and call it LMN. Here's my example. Maybe you drew an obtuse angle. Maybe you drew a straight angle. As long as you have M as your vertex, you're golden. Number 14, is FDE a possible way to name this figure at the right? That would be a yes. So I said the angle is named using 3 points. The second point is the vertex, and the first and the third points are on different sides of the angles, so that makes it fine. If you said something like D has to be the vertex, D has to be the second letter, again, that would be a great explanation as well. All right, last but not least, how many different line segments does a figure at the right include? Name them all. So there are 2 line segments, and it would be DE, or you could have named it ED. That's all one line segment. And then the other line segment would be DF or FD. So those would be the 2 answers. All right? So to wrap this up, again, our learning target was this video was to identify and name angles. So hopefully you've known the 3 ways to name angles: using a number, using the vertex, or using 3 points. So let me know if you have any questions. Otherwise, have fun practicing.